What's up, everybody? We are back with our Ask Tim stream. I don't know if you guys saw that we were... Oh, I forgot to turn my fill light on. Hang on. Let's turn that on. There we go. So you guys can see how pasty white I am. Anyways, the forum is open. I just turned that on. It should be going live in a second here. Yeah, we are changing the time. So Mondays we had moved to a later time. Let me shake this up. Hang on. And Remo has found a squeaky toy. So we're gonna take that away from him for now. Find yourself a quieter toy, dog. So as you guys can see, I have the logo light, neon light that I made on Friday hooked up. I'm actually giving it about 9 volts, but you can see it's kind of blown out. And what I didn't realize when I was printing it, I thought it'd look cool with the white, except the white filament is blowing out and it doesn't look as nice on camera. Like in person, it looks awesome. But the camera does not like it. So I'm actually reprinting the base, the actual printed part that the neon LED stuff goes into. I'm reprinting in some coax smoke PETG, smoke gray, I think they call it. But that's going on Bertha right now. And then I'm just going to unsolder the little solder joints on the back and move the lights over to the new one. So the darker frame should actually be better, and it's giving me a chance to try out coax PETG. We did just get a pallet, a literal pallet of filament from coax, so that will be stocked on the site later this week. So we do have it. I posted some pictures in, I was either the lounge in our VIP section or the, I think it was the lounge, yeah. Posted a little teaser that we got the filament in. So we ordered some PETG from them because I don't sell anything I haven't used myself, that I haven't tested. Joe from Project R3D, he has printed a lot of their PETG. I would expect their PETG to be good quality because I haven't had any issues with their PLA or their ABS. But again, I like to stick to our own mantra of, you know, if we don't use it here, we won't sell it. So yeah, so that's where we're at. So hopefully the new version with the darker frame will show up better on camera. But like I said, in person, it looks awesome. And I do have the voltage set down to about 9 volts. I did use one of those little DC step downs, and the AC adapter I used on the stream for that, once it was on for about 15 minutes, it started shutting off and it was running really hot. So, but it was a 2.5 amp rated adapter. It was just a random one I had laying around. And apparently it's not actually 2.5 amps output. So that's actually a 3 amp one that I had in my parts bin. I got so many damn AC adapters here. I was like, eventually I'll find one that works. But we're doing pretty good, and I just need to change the frame. You can kind of make out, like I'm looking at the video preview, like when I'm looking like this at my screen, I'm actually looking at OBS. So, but you guys need to answer. So right now you guys need to put questions into the chat, and I will answer them. I do have, since I did go to Murph on Saturday, they did have that event. And I'm going to give you guys my honest feedback about it. I want to preface this by saying I appreciate them putting the event on despite all the hurdles and challenges. The bigger building was really nice in terms of everybody not being on top of each other. There's a lot more space, so I think the newer building will work out better for future ones. I hope they have the future ones in March or April because having the event in June here in the Midwest, where it's stormy and humid and hot and the building doesn't have air conditioning, it was not a good combination. There weren't too many people there. The attendance was even lower than I thought it was going to be. But I did get to see a lot of the people that, you know, I go to these events. Yes, we do usually set up a table and, you know, we have a presence there and we like sponsoring them. But I mainly go there to see everybody from the community, whether it's, you know, individuals or companies, and just, you know, get a chance to meet people in person. I know I met Dan. Dan's a regular here on the channel, and a couple other guys that watch, and they're probably watching right now. So it's nice to actually, you know, put a face to the name and see you guys and talk to you in person. But the building, because the floor was so cold when they opened up the doors and everything. Like, it's a concrete floor. The humidity from the air just saturated the floor, and it was very slippery. I'm surprised they didn't have anybody slip and fall. I hope they can go ahead and do it in an earlier time where it's going to be cooler. You know, March and April for a building that doesn't have air conditioning would be much better suited. So hopefully they do it with their normal time schedule, which is usually they do their events in March or April. I know they pushed it back because of everything going on. But you know, there weren't that many people there. So if there was a Murph to miss, this would have been the one to miss. There weren't that many people there. I do have some pictures of, like, this is like around, I want to say 2 o'clock. So what would normally be peak times on Saturdays there, there just wasn't much going on. There wasn't that many people here. Let me pull this up and share. Let's see. I forgot to put this up there. That should be up there. Main monitor. Here we go. So, yeah, I mean, this was it at like 2 o'clock, I want to say. On Saturday, you can see there's not many people. This was it. I did not get a photo at the other end here, but you can see, like, these tables were almost all empty. There's another row of tables here. Like, basically after here it was empty. Same thing here. All over there was empty. So a lot more space, but not a lot of attendees. So yeah, it was very underwhelming. So if those of you guys that couldn't make it, don't feel bad that you missed it. You didn't miss much. You know, I actually brought along some cigars to share with some of the guys that were going to be there, but it rained all night Saturday, so we didn't even get a chance to go outside and, you know, hang out and have a drink and have a smoke. So yeah, it's pretty underwhelming, but I did have a good time. I did have a good time. Got to, you know, see Jim from the Edge of Tech. Joel Telling was there. Chuck Hellebuck was there. Had some dinner with them. Joe from Project R3D was there with him and his crew and his girlfriend Nicole. So, you know, it was fun. I'm glad I went to see the people that were there. Just as an event, it was very underwhelming. So, anyways, Mike Gambler says, I see myself in that pic. Which one was that? Yeah, and a couple of our guys, the main reason we didn't set up a table was because I couldn't get anybody to commit for the entire weekend. So, you know, I'm glad we made that call. Also, I'm wearing a hat thanks to Jason over at Lightburn. Oh, I think I got some schmutz on it. No! Some dust. Jason from Lightburn hooked me up with one of their Lightburn hats, and we actually use Lightburn here on our laser cutters. So, if you guys have a laser cutter, and we do have, I have an atom stack diode laser here. I'm going to be doing a video on that, and we will more than likely be using Lightburn to run that. So Lightburn's really cool if you guys have laser cutters. So, you know, I'm not affiliated with them. I don't get any money from them. It's just really good, solid software. So, yeah. And I told him I'd wear the hat. I was like, I'll wear it on stream if you give me a hat. He's like, okay. I have a shirt here too, but I have not washed it yet. So, anyways, hopefully after I've been talking here about the event, there are some questions in chat that I can answer, because that's what we're all here for. But we all know there's a tangent in the beginning. So, can you guys tell that Clara's tired? She's got her little head on the pillow. It's one of those like Outrun themed pillows. I think it was one of the Cyberdeck Cafe guys that designed that, but it is now Clara's pillow. Clara likes resting her head on little throw pillows. Oh no. It got in my beard. That's okay. If you spill more, it doesn't actually get very sticky. So let's see. You guys are talking about the Ender 7 and people cutting the front off. Yes, I actually saw that video. Joel was showing us that at dinner on Saturday night before it went live. I don't think that was the best choice to make. That's all I'm gonna say to that. I don't think that was a very good choice. There's many other ways you could have gone about modifying it to see the print bed better. Joel's a good guy, but Joel, consult with an expert next time before you take a freaking angle grinder to a printer and remove part of the core frame that holds the printer stable. I know a couple of guys that could have given you a better input on that, but I guess it makes for good videos. Let's see. Yeah, there's other people saying things. Yeah, the plastic go shouldn't really move the metal, which is used for structural stuff. Absolutely, that's the main thing. He should have just got rid of the plastic. You know, I don't have that machine. I don't know if we're gonna get one. It's kind of like, like what market are they trying to target with that? Because the Ender 6 was a decent machine. I would take an Ender 6 over the Ender 7, based on what I've seen so far for the Ender 7. Let's see here. Oh yeah, the credit card issue on our site. Yeah, so we were trying to mainly get better support, because Stripe, I'll be honest, Stripe support sucks. Stripe is a credit card processor. We've been using them for years, and they do have fees on the more, I would call them standard side or higher side, 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. But the main issue we have with Stripe is, you know, we've had chargebacks come through where we've contacted the customer and be like, hey, we got a chargeback for you. Can you confirm that this is? If it is, like, why are you opening a chargeback? That kind of stuff. And, you know, they've replied back, well, I didn't open a chargeback. I don't know why you're seeing a chargeback. Sent that in as, you know, supporting evidence for the charge being valid. And then Stripe will not even go to bat for us. They won't do anything, and we lose money in product. Whereas the company that we were using up until yesterday, because that's when I switched them off, they're called Stacks. They were formerly known as Fat Merchant. They actually have their model's a little different. They charge a lower fee. They basically transfer whatever fees the credit card companies charge to you, and that's what you pay, and then they have a monthly charge. And the benefit is they have not only lower fees for processing cards, and at the volume we do, it would be a significant savings a year. But they also have a team where if we have a chargeback situation where it's like, we know this is legitimate, we have evidence to support that this is legitimate, they actually have a real team of people that will go to bat for you, whereas Stripe doesn't even have a phone number that we can call. But reluctantly, I had to go switch back to Stripe because something with their system, people were getting credit cards declined when they shouldn't have been declined. So we rolled back. We're back on Stripe. You guys shouldn't have any issues with Stripe because, you know, aside from Stripe's incredibly poor customer service on a seller end, you know, our end, their system does work. So yeah, so we have credit cards, and those are processed through Stripe, and then we have PayPal on the site. So if you guys were having issues with trying to place an order, mainly with a credit card, those issues should be all gone. I had a couple people send tickets in, and they confirmed that they were good now after we switched back over. So I hope they can, Stacks, Fat Merchant, whatever you want to call them, can figure stuff out so we can go back to them. But, you know, if it's hurting our business, it's not worth the cost savings. Yeah, so anyways, questions here. I'm looking here. Form is closed. Het.exe loaded. Yep. Did the 290 by 290 Easy Flex plates come in yet? No, but I did get notice that they are shipping like this week. So we should have them hopefully in a couple weeks. We'll see. I'm trying to figure out where they're shipping them, whether they're going to do sea or they're doing air. Basically, shipping right now is still messed up, especially when you're dealing with large quantity stuff like we have. You know, we're seeing, but they told me they're shipping them this week. So, any word on the TH3D hats? Actually, I do have word on those. I did get a bunch of shipment notifications from Printful, which is who I'm using to make them. If you guys remember, we used Printful for our merch over a year ago, and the reason we stopped using Printful for our merch and switched over to Teespring for like our shirts and stuff was mainly because during all the human malware situation, they got incredibly flooded with people placing orders and setting up their own merch stores because they're a print-on-demand type service, which is nice. especially when we're not in the clothing business. It's just more of a side thing. They got inundated and they had, month and a half, 2 month lead times, which is why we switched over to Teespring. Teespring's been doing a really good job, but they don't do hats. So it was never an issue of the quality of the products Printful made. It was the time it took to get their products. So we just ordered a large quantity. We ordered 100 hats, and they're already done with them. So we will be directly shipping those. So anything... basically, the only merch we have on our actual TH3D store that will ship out here from our shop here in Hobart, Indiana, is the stickers. There's little stickers on our site for like 50 cents, and we also will have those hats, and we should be getting them on Thursday. So literally this week, they told us the delivery estimate was between July 1st to the 6th. And I've already got 5 tracking numbers for the hats that said they're going to be here Thursday. So we'll be shipping those directly from us. So anyways, let's see. People are saying they love Coex Pet G. Printed Coex Pet G prints well. Kyle Fegley's asking, how's it printing so far? It seems like it's printing like the Atomics Pet G, so which is good. And like I said, I know Joe, Mr. Project R3D Joe is printing a lot of Coex Pet G, and he said their stuff works great. So, but you guys know I like to actually test the stuff that we're selling. So let's see here. Questions. Summer, what's your process for dialing in a whole new combo of hot end nozzle, diameter extruder filament as a combo of all these? Start with a benchy. Start with a benchy with settings are roughly good for the type of setup you have, whether it's direct drive or Bowden, and run a benchy, see how it comes out, see where the shortcomings are. Maybe you have some stringing, maybe you have little holes because you had too much retraction. Really common if you go from Bowden to the direct drive, you're going to have to lower your retraction settings because you'll probably be retracting too much at that point. But run a benchy, look at it, and evaluate it. See where you have shortcomings. Maybe it'll be perfect the first time, maybe it won't. Like for example, if you're getting stringing, I'll usually lower the print temp by 10C and see if that helps. If that doesn't, I'll usually up retraction. Depending on the filament type too, like Pet G really likes to have fast travel movements to reduce stringing. So when you're zipping between points to points, when the nozzle's not extruding filament, it's moving from one point to another. With Pet G, you really want that to be as fast as your printer can go. Most printers can handle around 80 to 100 millimeters a second. Smaller machines like the Ender 3, you can usually get away with, 120 millimeters a second travel speed, or Core XY machines like the Daedalus or the Ender 6. You can usually get away with about 120 or even higher. So basically figure out how fast your printer can move. If you're trying to reduce stringing, you can also try stuff like nozzle wipe. Like I still use Simplify 3D here, and nozzle wipe is a really nice thing to try to prevent the oozing from turning into stringing. So as you stop extruding filament, there's going to be a little that leaks out of the nozzle after it's done extruding. It retracted, there's still some that's going to be there, and it'll like to leak out. And what happens is if you have that leaking, it will attach to the part, and then as it moves, it pulls away and you end up with a string. One thing you can do to avoid that is use a feature called nozzle wipe, where it'll actually wipe the nozzle on the printed part, so it pushes that extra filament onto the printed part, so it's not just kind of there and then can turn into stringing. Z-Hop's another thing. I seldom use Z-Hop, but it can be helpful on certain machines where, again, we're basically fighting that nozzle ooze, where after it's done doing the retract, it'll move the nozzle up in hopes of getting that little bit of ooze separated from the printed part. But you can then end up with like little zits where it then started the new print, because it'll come over and come back down. So, it's that's basically my process. Run a print, see how it comes out, and then adjust from there. There's actually a really good article. It's an older article, but it's still relevant, that Simplify 3D has on their website. Let's see if I can find it here, because I used this so much when I was starting out. I haven't referenced this in a while, but this is a really good, it's called their Print Quality Troubleshooting Guide, and this is a really good resource for trying to troubleshoot your printer. If you guys haven't seen it, even if you don't use Simplify 3D, it's got a lot of good information on there on identifying, because they have pictures, identifying what the issue is and what settings you should be changing or what you should be doing to your printer to fix those problems that you're trying to tune out. So Armil says he's got 2 of our 24 volt 5015 fans. It recently started making an annoying noise. Not a high pitched squeal, like a strange vibration. I'm running 100%, and previous to yesterday, no issues. I would check and make sure there's no bolts that have loosened up, because I've had printers where I've been running them for a while, and all of a sudden they start making just terrible vibration noises. And it could just be something as simple as the screw will loosen up that's holding the component. I've had it happen on fans. I also make it a point to double check the nuts that secure my ABL sensors, because sometimes just the vibration of the head moving back and forth can cause things to loosen up. It's never a bad idea to go over your printer and make sure all your bolts are still tight, make sure your belts are still properly tensioned, because as things loosen up, not only is it going to hurt your print quality, but you could get to a point where if a bolt works its way out all the way, it could fall out during a print, and at the very least, it could screw up your print. At the worst, it could short something out and damage equipment. So I would go over your whole hot end and make sure everything is secure. Make sure a piece of filament doesn't get into the fan, because I've had that before where like a little piece of stringing wisped up and the fan sucked it in, and then it started started wrapping it around like inside the housing of the fan. There was like a little piece of string with a blob of filament at the end, and it was just flicking it around. Yeah, it's check to make sure nothing's stuck in it. Start with the easiest things. But if the fan is going out, it's possible it could fail if it's still within the warranty. All our fans come with a 90-day warranty on there. Let us know. I haven't had one of ours die on us yet. We do have ball bearing fans or dual ball bearing fans, so they should last a very long time, but it's possible. Everything's going to break at some point. You could have just got a defective one. So, but the basic stuff like things in it, something vibrating, in worst case scenario, shoot our support a message and they'll get you all squared away. So, let's see here. Our closed loose, I can't talk today apparently. Are the closed-loop stepper motors worth using? I have not played with them, but it's something I would, if I had time. Hang on, that went down the wrong way. If I had time, I would probably play with them on a machine that's not like critical, like mission critical. Because I have seen videos, like I know Teaching Tech did a video on them, and it's really cool because he literally like hit the printer and the head, went right back to where it went. They're a neat idea. I don't think, and this is just my opinion, I don't think they're needed on every printer, and I'll tell you why. I don't think they're needed on every printer because the thing with the closed loop steppers is if something goes wrong, it goes back into where it was. My opinion is that if something's going wrong, you should fix the problem that's causing the step loss instead of trying to add more electronics to work around said step loss. Step loss can, I see people are complaining about quality. Let me check my Comcast modem. It says we're online. Could also be YouTube. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning right now, so it's possible that our internet could be going nuts. But it could also just be YouTube sucking. But either way, we're going to keep rolling with it. Where were we talking about? Oh, closed-loop steppers. So step loss, it can be caused by a bunch of stuff. Simplest, your head hit something, usually the print, and it just lost steps. Could also be that your VREFs are too low, and the movement you're telling the printer do, or that it's trying to do, it doesn't have enough torque going to the motor, so it thinks it moved that much, but really it lost steps because it doesn't have enough torque. Another issue could be the opposite. You could have too high of a VREF, and your stepper driver's overheating and your motor's overheating and it's too hot, so it's losing magnetism, so it can't hold the step position. Either way, someone's welcome to post any possible other reason you would lose steps. But basically, if you're losing steps, there's something wrong with your printer. So, you know, that's really the whole thing about it. Like, something happened that shouldn't have happened, or something's tuned improperly and you're losing steps. You know, so the thing is, too, if you have a closed loop stepper and you do have problems and it's self-correcting it, how are you ever going to know, unless you're sitting there watching it, that you have problems because it's covering it up with the software? You know what I mean? Like, I would rather be like, oh, I lost steps. Let me troubleshoot my printer and find out why we lost steps versus, you know, if I start a print, I'm not watching it through the whole print. I may not even know that I lost steps and there could be an issue. Yeah, anyways. Let's see here. Oh, tripod slipped and fell at Murph. I did not know that. Those of you guys who don't know Tripod, he's Tripod from Tripod's Garage. He literally has one leg and he gets around on, like, I don't know if they're called, they're not crutches, but like he's got these arm things. That's terrible. I did not know he fell there. That's rough. Damn. Let's see here. I'm looking through here. Jack Roberts got a 50-watt CO2 light burn rocks. I like it. You know why I like it? Because I was able to install it, connect it to my laser cutter, and start doing things with it with minimal documentation reading. It's very easy to use compared to some other stuff that's out there. M. Poffenbarger is getting his Home Assistant blue tomorrow after waiting 4 months. Any plans for Tim-styled how-tos? Not for a Home Assistant, especially not on this channel. I got a lot of other stuff I have to tackle before I start venturing out into the Home Assistant stuff. I still got to get our damn light bulbs done. Things are moving smoother here, so I am getting more time to plow through stuff. Right now, my priority is the stuff for the NeoPixel strips, because I want to get those going next week. The problem right now is I do not have the boards because they're production delays. Like I said, we want to be able to have it, so like we will once I get the boards, but there's a little board that will go onto the EasyBoard V1 that plugs onto here. You just give it power from your power supply, and then you plug the NeoPixel strip that we made into it and tell the firmware that, hey, I've got this on my board, and it'll just work. The problem right now is we don't have those boards. Now, you can use it with our board or any other board, but you have to have a way to deliver at 5-volt power. So it's not a plug-and-play solution with the EasyBoard V1 until we get those adapters. So, but what I'm going to do is put together a guide using, I've got an assortment of different DC step-down adapters that I have from various places, showing you guys how to wire up the Easy Neo strips with a standard 5-volt step down. I don't know if we're going to carry the 5-volt step downs. I do have a limited quantity of ones that I have in like our personal stash. And I mean, like, we have a couple hundred of them. It's actually what I used to dim this light behind me. Those would work well with the Easy Neos as well. So the plan is to put together a guide on here's how you deliver 5-volt power to it. We'll also have a guide to go along with setting it up for Marlin, what you have to set, how you actually tell it that you have these strips, and how Marlin will control it. So I wanted to wait till we had those boards, but it looks like it's going to be a while, you know, couple more weeks, maybe even a month before we get those little step down boards for the EasyBoard Lite. So we're just going to do something more DIY. So those of you guys that can handle, you know, some light soldering and hooking up a little step down converter, you guys can do that. But we will have a plug and play solution out, you know, within about a month for the EasyBoard V1 to run those NeoPixel strips off of that we designed. The EasyBoard V2 is working. I do not want to send it into production yet until we get some more time on it, but we do have a working EasyBoard V2 with processors that we have stock on. The reason we're coming out with the EasyBoard V2 is because we can't get the NXP chips, and we have no idea when we're going to get the NXP chips again. So kind of having to retool in this ever-changing landscape of shit. I don't know how else to describe it. It's been an absolute disaster trying to get chips. Like even the little 5-volt, the little linear voltage regulators we're using on those adapters, and like the Pi board adapters, those used to be in quantity under $1, and now we're getting quotes of over $3 a piece. So costs on everything are going up. It's nuts. So if it isn't one thing, it's another. If it's we can't get the chips, if that's not the problem, it's the chips are expensive, and we're just doing what we can. But I mean, I guess everybody else is in the same thing. So if we're having to raise prices, somebody else is going to have to raise prices as well. So what are you going to do? I'm hoping, unless we hit any issues with the V2, if this prototype works and I don't have any problems with it, the software works, the hardware works, we should have easy boards in about a month and a half to 2 months. I'm going to say more on the 2-month side, but I'm pretty confident that we have everything nailed down at this point. I just want to prove what we have in-house and not, do what some other companies do, where they'll throw something together and, hey, look, it powers on, it moves, it does basic things, and not test it for, weeks at a time, making sure it actually reliably works. So let's see here. I'm looking through here. Okay, hang on. Chat jumped is like, I am seeing stuff I haven't seen. Okay, there we were talking about Home Assistant. We're talking about the LEDs. There we go. Nightcrawler. Have you written firmware for the SVO3? Also, does the bed cable support that comes with the solid bed mounts work on the SVO3? No, I've not written the firmware for the SVO3 yet. All new printer editions are on hold right now until we get Unified 2 updated to 209, which is what I'm working on this week. I'm hoping to have that done by the end of the week, because I don't want to be adding new printers in while also updating our major code base, because I will have to then potentially redo the printers that have already been supported. But yeah, in terms of the cable or bed cable support that comes with the solid mounts on the SVO3, I have that machine sitting there. I want to say I think it'll fit, but I have not verified it. But I will, because that is one of the machines that I'm going to be pulling out to test when I do the SVO3 firmware, and part of that is I'm going to put an easy ABL on it and the solid bed mounts, because that's what we have on all our machines in our print farm. So, now let's change it up because it's a little dark outside. Hey Google, turn on night mode. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, it's still blowing out the LED. Damn. But anyways, we'll leave it like that. It looks cool. So, let's see. Next question. Can you tell me more about the progress on Anycubic Chiron, rough price on your kit fix? We're shooting for under $40 with all the cables in the LCD. The LCD is going to be the majority of the cost on that. Prices on those have gone up to us, so we've had to raise prices out of selling them. But we're shooting for right around $40 or less. I actually just put in another version of the LCD housing on my Ender 6 here, which is off to the left. So, but anyways, yeah, it's not gonna be super expensive. We try to target the $30 to $40 range for any LCD conversions we make, and the majority of that cost is the LCD itself. So, let's see. Yeah, the silicon shortage sucks. Just ranting, Sai says. Yes, it's terrible. It's absolute shit. And I don't have the money. I don't know if you guys know this. I don't have the money to set up my own silicon fab. If I did, if I had like Elon Musk money, I would be building one, because I think we should have more PCB, or not PCB fabs, more silicon fabs here, or foundries, I think is the correct term, in the US. We need to have that shit back here, man. Like, we should be making that stuff here, because as we saw, TSMC is like the main. There was like a chart I had, and I think it was something around like over half of the industry that makes silicon uses TSMC, which is in Taiwan. And the problem with having everything going through a couple of big companies, if those big companies get screwed, it screws up the entire market because everybody's using it. I don't understand why there's not more smaller foundries in existence. Maybe there are, but the chips that we can get, or that we use aren't made there. But I've talked to guys. There's a customer of ours. He's a really cool guy. His name's Bill, and he works for a very large semiconductor place. Not semiconductor. Well, I guess they are a semiconductor company, but basically they're an OEM. They make solid state drives, they make RAM, and he's telling me they can't get controllers. They're quoting months out, and these companies are having to order huge quantities of chips just in hopes that they might get some. So, it's affecting everybody. It sucks. It's nothing I thought I would ever have to deal with. It's wild. Dan Adams, I forgot to give you the Detroit City Distillery Bloodline whiskey I brought to bring to Murph. Damn it. That would have been great. I know you're in Discord. Send me a PM. I know you're not too far. Maybe take a drive down here to our neck of the woods. Let's see here. We talked about the EasyBoard V2. 3 Jeff is asking, what fires LED cube change event? Can you set up to change the pattern when someone types a specific word? I could, I think. I'm basically using Nightbot. Nightbot sends a webhook to if this, then that. Then if this, then that talks to a webhook that is through Home Assistant. So there's a lot of jumps to make that one thing go when you type cube. If I had more time to play around, I think it'd be cool, like, in this mode here, obviously you guys see the lights they're RGB lights. I have kind of like a, Outrun color theme going, the pink and the blue. But it'd be kind of cool if someone like super chats or something, they could like specify a color and it changes the color of the lights. But I have a lot of other stuff that needs my time. It was bad enough I took time out to do this, but that does look pretty freaking cool. And I think it'll look great once I change the frame to a darker color. Let's see here. Who broke the stream? Yeah, I saw that here. Bebob55. He said he tried to use a USB-C to micro USB cable to power Raspberry Pi 3B. It did help reduce the throttle message. It's sometimes lightning bolt symbol will flicker on and off. At that point, I know I have a couple machines here that are on like older power adapters or older PoE splitters. I found that what you want to look at is a red LED on the Pi board. If it's not off and maybe it flickers once in a while, I've usually found that it runs fine. It's where if that light is flickering on and off all the time, or it's just solid off, then it's time to, look into replacing or upgrading the power adapter. But, I have had some where they've been undervolting for a while and I didn't even notice until I was looking at it. I was like, oh, look at that. The light flickered. I was like, eh. Let's see. Bebob. Oh, he said, okay, so you feel USB-C is okay to use power from a CP. So he's got a battery backup. If you're coming off the battery backups, I have some of those Cyber Powers that you're talking about that have the USB on the front. Do not use that to power a Pi. That's probably why you're getting undervolting. Get a USB power adapter, not a charger. Those ports on the front of those units are charger outputs. They're not a power supply output. They're meant for charging phones. I have tried using those to power a Pi and they did not work correctly. But you can use a micro USB-C adapter or USB-C to micro adapter. I'm just getting you a link because we do carry ones, and these are the same ones that we use in our Pi kits, and we have very little issues. I think maybe in a year we'll get 10 people, and we sell hundreds of these a month. We'll get maybe 10 people in a year that actually have a problem with it. And it's usually something to do with like the switch and not the adapter itself, because we'll get them back and I'll actually fix them and use them myself. But if you got a USB-C to micro adapter, it would probably work fine with this, like one of those little tiny ones. But yeah, don't use the power output on like the USB plugs on a battery backup. Those are just a charger. It's just a built-in charger for convenience. I have a couple of them. Let's see here. Dan Adams says, the mess I just made would be a good head for your flex sheet. I had a failed armored fabric print and flex sheet and all little pieces went flying all over the room. Oh, I've been there. You got to be careful with the flex plates sometimes when you got a bunch of little stuff because they like to eject. I know what if you guys ever order our little easy outboards, we actually print the caps that go over the header that plugs into the PCB, and those are small. And I can't tell you how many times I've taken a full sheet of them off and I flex them and half of them go flying across the room. Usually if I have a batch of small parts, I'll usually put the flex sheet face down into like a box or something and flex it in there. It prevents them from going everywhere. Let's see here. Chat jumped again, so let me see. Oh yeah, I did check our interconnection. It's looking kind of sketch. There's a lot of uncorrectables right now, so if we drop out, we drop out. I could try failing us over to the T-Mobile 5G and see. Maybe I'll try that towards the end because we're getting towards the end of the stream. Maybe I'll try that just to see how well it works. I've never actually streamed over that, and I have my cable modem on a Wi-Fi switch, so I could shut that switch off to force it to fail over, and we'll see if T-Mobile 5G has enough to stream out. We'll see. I don't know if I have. Do I have an automation here? I thought I have an automation to. Yeah, I do have an automation here to turn the cable modem back on. We'll play with that. So towards the end of the stream, I'll cut this off and see if the T-Mobile connection works well enough to stream, because that's kind of our backup right now. So let's see here. Alan Kilgore says, I have a Core XY that is ringing only on the Y-axis. The manufacturer sent a config that has significantly different jerk and accel for X and Y. I always thought the X and Y had to be the same. Yes or no? Yes, they should be the same on your X and Y on a Core XY. I would recommend changing those to the same settings. If your Y has ringing and your X doesn't, I would then say take the settings for X and put it on Y for the jerk and accel. They should be the same. So... Oh, I hear a lot of thunder. We'll see. Maybe Comcast will just go out on its own and we'll be forced to use the 5G. Kevin Cohagen, who is a member, thank you, Kevin, is asking, I just installed new heater cartridge, thermistor, and Hear.Me cooling ducts in my Ender 3 V2. Where in the Unified firmware do I have to adjust the hot end position? I already adjust my easy ABL position. So I haven't messed with the Hear.Me on the Ender 3 V2. If it changed your hot end position to where you're going to lose bed size, okay, it says moved out 9mm according to the Hear.Me Gen 5 documentation. So I'm assuming it's moved 9mm forward, so you lost 9mm on your bed. What I will do, if that's on something like that, is I will go and modify the bed size, so that would be your Y bed size. So if it pushed it forward away from the carriage, 9mm, you're going to lose 9mm on your print area. So you need to adjust your slicer. I would just round it up to 10, and because it's just simpler to remember. So whatever, like on that printer Ender 3 V2, I think that's it's either 220 by 220 or 235 by 235. Either way, take 10 off of the Y. So if it's 220, you'd be at 210. In our firmware, I'm assuming you're using our firmware. The only thing with the Ender 3 V2 is I don't know if you would be using our firmware with the stock LCD or if you'd be using our firmware with the OEM LCD. Because if you're using the OEM LCD, then the configuration change is in a different location than the, what's the word I'm looking for? Than if you had the LCD converted to a 12864. So I'm pulling up, I just loaded my GitHub desktop. I'm just loading the firmware up. Hopefully by the time you answer, let's see. That was Kevin. Kevin, give me more info. I'm waiting. And Jim, upstate New York, just joined the caffeine fund. Thank you. That will go towards my maw. I gave quite a few people some maw when I was at Murph. Also, fun fact, I don't know if you guys know this, but in the little maw, the little scoops that come in the maw bottles, they fit in the little neck of a water bottle because they had water bottles there at Murph. I literally could just put a scoop into there and shook it up. It was nice. Let's see here. So I'll show you really quick. So this is our current Unified 2. This is the, I think it's version 2.2.7. I could actually check here. Let me do a Control-Shift-F. Let me open up here, firmware. I think this is 227. Yes, this is 227. So anyways, the reason I ask about what LCD you're using, because there's two different options here, and you change it. So let's say you did the LCD conversion. I think you said you have the parts, you just haven't done it yet. So if you did the conversion, you'd want to modify the Y bed size for the Ender 3, not the Ender 3 V2, but I'll show you where both of those are, because they should have, I'm trying to remember where I coded this in. Where did I code it in? Right here. So if we see here, and actually I take that back. It looks like, oh no, they are in two different positions, and I'll show you why. So this section, and if this is version 2.2.7 of our firmware, so this will change possibly as we do other updates. So line right here, line 795 is the X, and 796 is the Y. So you lost about 10 millimeters, so you would change that from a 235 to a 225. And this is if you're doing it with the LCD converted to the 12864, which is what the Ender 3 has. So you're going to be flashing it as an Ender 3. Now, if you're using the stock LCD, you're going to come down even further, and you're going to see the Ender 3 V2 settings here. And we're going to look for that same Y bed size position here. And in this case, it would be 210. I have not tested a 235 by 235 setting on an Ender 3 V2 with the stock screen. I don't think it would matter now that I think about it, because our Ender 3 V2 out in the print farm is actually running the Ender 3 firmware, and we haven't had any collisions. So I'm making myself a note here to update this to 235 for the Ender 3 V2. The reason we put 220 in here is because this is what Creality says it is. So, but anyways, again, you're just going to change it. So you lost about 10 millimeters. You just change this to 210, and that's going to limit the travel. Because if you don't do this, your printer can start hitting things, or your nozzle's off the bed. If the nozzle is off the bed, you'll also want to tell the printer how far off the bed it is, which is in the home adjust setting. This is all the code. You guys, if you guys are downloading a firmware, you don't usually go past, like, where is it? Like, right here. So most people don't go past here. But let's say your nozzle's hanging off the bed and you want to tell the printer, hey, my nozzle is hanging off the bed by 10 millimeters. You could use this feature called home adjust. So you'd uncomment this here and then tell it how far it is to get to the 0 position. So let's say, you know, there's no offset on X, but there's 10 millimeters on Y. This will tell the printer that when it homes X and Y, that the nozzle's actually 10 millimeters off the bed. And if I change this to something else, like 5, now I've just told it that the nozzle's 5 millimeters off the bed when the Y end stop is homed. So this is how you tell the printer where your adjustments are. This is how we do it in our firmware. Now, Marlin has another feature like that. They also have one where you can set it from the LCD. We don't have that enabled in our firmware because a lot of people were accidentally hitting that and doing all sorts of messed up things with their printer. Like they would accidentally press it, or they're pressing it thinking they're doing something that they're really not doing, and then they're ramming their head into the frame of their printer. So we have it so you just set it in the firmware. That way it's very intentional if you do set an offset for your hot end. So yeah, that should cover that. Wow, it's almost 5 already. Let's see here. People, saw a couple of people asking about how you know what version of Marlin we are on. In every single download of our firmware, if you look in the firmware folder, there is a Marlin folder. And then in that Marlin folder, there's a folder called Stock Marlin Files. And I'll show you guys this right here. So I have our firmware opened. So you'll see Stock Marlin Files. You go into here and you go to Stock Files Info. You will get a file that tells you what this is, and it tells you what the current Marlin base is. So right now, Unified 227, our Unified version 2.2.7 is built on the Marlin 2.0.7.2 code base, and we are currently in process right now of updating that to 2.0.9. So I'm hoping to have the 209 update done this week, pending no major catastrophes here at the office. But I've already merged in most of the code. It's a matter of us just checking everything and making sure everything compiles and everything works and getting it on our printers here. So let's see here. I'm scrolling down here. But yeah, so the version, all the firmware we have uses the same base. So our Easy board, the Creality boards, everything uses the same code base. So like when we do one update to Unified 2, it updates for everything that we support. So, and that includes the Easy firmware site. So my process is once we've qualified the firmware in-house, we make sure it runs right. We make sure it compiles correctly for all the boards and all the printers. That's why it takes us so long to do releases and updates, because we literally have to go then and compile every single variant for every single board and printer combination to make sure that there's no errors. And if there are errors, we have to go back and figure out why those errors are occurring after doing the update, and that can add time to the release. But once we do push an update out, it goes out to everywhere. We log into our Easy firmware server, we have it pull down the latest code from GitHub, and then it will be updated. So everything we put out is run off the same code base. So let's see here. M. Poffenbarger is asking about an Ender 6 top, so we can do ABS. Oh no, someone has alerted the horde. Joe from Project R3D is working on one. I don't know where he's at on it. I don't have the time to do something like that, but I do have the equipment to cut acrylic and make a top. And I know him and I are supposed to be having a meeting on either tomorrow or Wednesday. It's on my calendar to go over stuff like that, like new product ideas that him and I are working on together. So, Kyle Fegley is asking, who do you use the Arkwell plugin on a Pi? The firmware is updated to support it. It's linked on our image download page. So we have a page that is a download for the Easy Pi image, and we have a link there. I can't remember the author's name, but it is linked on there. We also put out for people that want to know how to lock down your Pi, like changing your password, that kind of stuff. We do have an article now too on here's how you change your SSH password, here's how you change your login password, and then for more advanced people, even if you want to change your SSH keys and that kind of stuff, we have an article about that as well. I'm looking here. Hang on, I saw somebody asking a question about Tommy O. What do you think about the CR10 Smart? I think it looks cool, but I don't like that Creality's moving in this direction of let's put printers on people's Wi-Fi that phone home to their servers, which I asked them because the Ender 7 has the Creality cloud thing, and I asked in their live event multiple times where the servers are hosted, and they completely ignored the question multiple times. I will not be hooking any Creality printer or device that has Wi-Fi or network connectivity to my network. No, I'm not doing it. Especially when they're probably not going to provide the source code so we can see if there's anything in there that could be nefarious. I've had a very bad time with Chinese devices that connect to the internet that I can't look at source code for. It's why a lot of my, well, almost all of my home automation stuff is local controlled, and the things that aren't local control only can't talk to the internet. So, because I've had so many devices, like I've had cameras where I've plugged them in and watched people telnet into them from Chinese IP addresses and then start scanning my network. Not even a joke. That's why all of my cameras right now, I wouldn't call it an air gap, but they're on a separate VLAN that has no access to the internet. The only thing they can talk to is my DVR box on certain ports, and that's it. Yeah, I like knowing what goes on my network, especially with all the cyber attacks and stuff these days. You know, if there's compromised code, and Creality's had this before where they've had printers going out with SD cards with backdoors and Trojans on them. So it's not out of the realm for me to think there could be nefarious code in their printers that are connecting to your home Wi-Fi, or Ethernet or network connection. I'm not comfortable with it. So I would much rather run something like Octoprint that is open source, that I know what's in there, that I can review the code if I want to, and I don't have to worry about it phoning home to some server in China that I have no idea who has access to it. Call me paranoid if you want, but I'm going to err on the side of caution. So, Jim, upstate New York, says, I got a Tron C D01. Any suggestion on a board? His board went to shit. Let me look that up. I'd probably not recommend another Tronxy board. Let me see. I don't keep up with Tronxy stuff because Tronxy makes terrible printers. Their quality's terrible. Their support's terrible. They disrespect the GPL license, meaning they use Marlin, and they will not provide source code. They've never provided source code on any request that I've asked them, so I stopped. Like, they're basically blacklisted from our channel. We will not feature their stuff. There's a lot better printers out there for the money than Tronxy. So Tronxy is low quality crap with a company that won't stand behind its low quality crap that they put out. I'm just looking at this. This looks like it's got a nice little touch screen on it. I hate the touch screens. Is this a printer? Looks halfway decent, but I will not buy their stuff just on principle. Silent motherboard. There's like no pictures of the board. If that was me and I was just overhauling it and getting rid of their board, I'd go with something like what we carry, like the MKS S-Gen L, change out the LCD for a traditional 128/64 screen, and just rewire the damn thing. You're going to have to probably print some adapters or bust out the Dremel to mount the LCD to the housing, but that's what I would do. When I have printers that have just these terrible control boards that I don't even want to buy an OEM one, like Creality ones, I'll either put our board in it or I'll put another Creality board in because their boards are halfway decent and I don't feel like overhauling the damn thing. But for something like the Tronxy, if I had that machine here and I liked the machine, I felt it was worth putting the, time into, I would probably go with something like the MKS S-Gen L. And just swap the LCD and just basically make it a custom built machine. So, and I think we still have stock on the S-Gen Ls. Those boards are really hard to get. I can't even buy new ones anymore. So whatever we have is what we're going to have for a long time. Because I can't get them. They're using the same processor we use on the EasyBoard Lite, which is LPC 1769. So it's a good processor. They're good boards for the price. They're not like the best board out there. They're not duet quality, but for what you get what you pay for, and you pay a little bit more for these than big tree text boards. But I'm running 2 S-Gen Ls here, and they work great. So that's why we started carrying them. But Jim, there you are. Take a look at that. And we do have the other reason too, especially if you're not very well versed on firmware, we do have a really easy to use firmware for that specific board. So we aren't just reselling the board. We also took the time and put together firmware that's easy to use to help you get up and running quickly. And as you can see, my motion sensor did not like that I haven't been moving. Hang on, can I set it off? I'll hold the dog up. Trigger. There we go. anyways, where were we at? We're almost out of time is where we're at. Should I try failing us over to the 5G and see if it works? I'm gonna see if there's any other quick questions here. I'm scrolling through here. Didn't I find some? Matt Mudeeb is asking, didn't you find some malware on a Corelli flash drive on their SD cards? Yep, multiple times. Yeah. 3 Jeff says, what can be done to correct a CR10 that is printing ovals rather than circles? I noticed it when I print a turntable for my wife's cake decorating. Usually if it's printing ovals, that means something's loose. Maybe your belt's stretched out. I would look at the belt. And it's usually, like, if it's stretched in the Y direction, it's probably your Y belt. Also check and see, like, print a calibration cube and see what it comes out as. Like CaliCat, I know I've printed CaliCat a couple times on here. That's a 20 by 20 outer perimeter size. Measure that and see how far off you are. So, Jonathan Bayer, don't you have an automated test for compiles? Only for our EasyWare right now. I have a Python script, which is on our GitHub. If anybody has time to write one so I test all of our variations, I need to do it. But the problem is, it's like, I know it'll save us time, but I also got a million other things to do. And then it stacks. I don't know if you guys have this where it's like, well, I can automate this, but then you spend like days working on the automation, and then it sets everything else back. And then you're like, well, I could automate this, so I'm going to write this for that, and all this other stuff. But I do have an autocompiler. Chip wrote this for us back then, and this was like the precursor to the easy firmware. But this is what I use to generate the precompiled bin files for our board. So if you wanna retool this, fork it and retool that to work with all of them, that would be fantastic, and it would save me a ton of time. I will do that at some point. It's just one thing after another, and I got to prioritize what we work on. So, and by we, I mean me. I'm the only one here that does code stuff. So, anyways, let me see here. I think that's about it. Let me see if there's any other quick questions here before I wrap this up. And then I'm going to go ahead and try to cut us over to the 5G and see how smoothly or poorly it transitions. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I appreciate everybody that stops by. I'm going to roll the outro, and then I'll be back, and we're going to see if how the T-Mobile 5G works for a backup. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope you guys learned something. And as always, happy printing. I'll see you guys on the next one, which is 4 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday. We're moving all of them to 4 p.m. We might move them later. We posted an article on our site. If you want us to move it later, leave a comment. I'm trying to get feedback if we should move these later in the day in general. So I will talk to you guys later. And as always, happy printing. Okay, let's see. Let's see if the failover works. So I have my Home Assistant here, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn my cable modem off, and we'll see if it comes back. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and see. Okay, it says it reconnected. How is the quality? My cable modem is off right now. See here, it's off. It says we're streaming out at 600K or 6,000K. Did that actually work? Let's see here. This is taking a little bit to resolve. See how long this is taking to resolve? DNS probe failed. No! Streamlabs says we're sending out at 6100 and my cable modem is still off. Why is my DNS not resolving though? This should all that's weird. So my internet connection is working, but my DNS isn't resolving. Let's see. Weird. Let's see, DNS setting. Let's see, test upstreams. So, I mean, this is 100% for sure going over the T-Mobile connection, but for some reason, DNS isn't resolving, which is really weird. Like, I use AdGuard for our DNS servers here. Huh. I'll have to play with this some more, but it should, like, why, like, does YouTube load? Does this random ham website I have bookmark load? It's not. That's really weird, because if my computer has connection, it should be, yeah, look at that. It's weird. It's not. See, google.com. No, it should be instantaneous. Why is DNS not resolving? That's so weird. That shouldn't, the router should be routing everything out through the new connection. Obviously, like I have, my modem is off. This is going over T-Mobile's 5G. But why is, yeah, let me load up my my Unify panel. Let me see if I can figure this out. We're just gonna keep this rolling. You nerds can I mean, this is looking really good. OBS is not complaining. It says I'm streaming out 6100K a second. The problem here is I'm not getting DNS resolution, which is really weird, because my internet connection is clearly working. Because I'm talking to you guys right now. Let's see if this switch over. So it was able to reconnect, but why is DNS not resolving? And my computer is not able to ping. Like, how did OBS reconnect if my DNS servers are freaking out because the internet failed over? Which doesn't make sense why the DNS wouldn't be working, because it should, the router just fails everything over to the new connection. Yeah, so I'm routed over to the 5G. It's definitely an odd one. Like, why would my AdGuard boxes care about what connection we're going over? You know what I mean? Like, that's a little weird. Because the connection is solid. It's actually, oh, there we go. Now things are resolving. I don't know what happened. So now things are resolving. There we go. Yeah, look at it here. T-Mobile USA. And I don't care about sharing this public IP, because this is not actually, this is a shared IP address. So you don't actually get an actual IP address to your modem. So go ahead and do whatever you want to that. It doesn't matter. It's shared by multiple connections. But you can see here, it's working. So yeah, let's see. Let's try pinging here. Okay, so it is resolving now. I'm surprised that it's streaming pretty smoothly, because I'm getting a solid 6,000K up with no issue. So, all right, so we have proven the point that the T-Mobile 5G does work well enough to stream. I appreciate you guys sticking around with the test. I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on, and then I'll fail back over to the Comcast. But anyways, yeah, cool. So T-Mobile 5G actually works for streaming. So if Comcast goes down, we should be good. So anyways, take it easy, everybody. Thanks, nerds, for staying by to help me test. Talk to you later. Bye.